Do you find it to be prohibitively expensive relative to what you were eating before, or is it kind of about the same at this point?
Well, probably it would be close to the same because before I always would buy fresh vegetables, not processed. We didn't eat much, even when we ate a lot of vegetables and things. I didn't do a lot of processed food because I was just raised to cook fresh. But probably with what I spent on that and all the sugary things that I baked and made and we bought and ate, and I lived on Diet Coke. That was baking and Diet Coke was the two hardest things I had in giving. And I just, honestly, the last few months just gave up the Diet Coke. That was a struggle. But probably when you consider everything we put in our mouth, Carnivore is probably cheaper.
Yeah.
Because we don't do trips to the ice cream, to Dairy Queen and all those places anymore.
Yeah, interesting. I saw an analysis on Dairy Queen's ice cream, and it's kind of scary what's actually in Dairy Queen ice cream if you look at the ingredients.
Yeah.
So, let me ask you about that because you said you were a baker, you enjoyed sweets. We all, most of us do. I mean, it's kind of it's something that a lot of people have issues with. How did going carnivore did it change your desire and your cravings for this thing? Was it something that allowed you to sort of kick that?
Yeah, I don't really crave it anymore like I used to. Sometimes when you actually really miss something and you really want it, and because in the beginning, I think everybody kind of like just, I want a bite of this. Most of the time, it's just like the Diet Coke that when you actually taste it, it's not what you remembered it being because your taste does change. And I just, when I want to go and bake something, I just kind of find something else to occupy my mind. I do miss doing that, but I know we can't eat it, so I don't do it. But no, I don't crave it near as much as in the beginning.
Yeah, and when you went on this diet, did the family follow you, or were they reluctant, or did everybody switch together? How did that work?
No, my husband, when I had him listen to the video on carnivore, I said, I want to do this. I said, I'm not that into vegetables anymore. I said, I want to try it. And he said, okay, let's do it. And like I said, we stopped and stocked up for a week of ribeyes, and that's what we did. And he has great metabolism. He's small frame. He lost a lot of weight. We actually had to incorporate a few carbs back on him. He got very thin. But he had no problem. And of course, my son eats what I cook, so he had no choice. He had to go on it. But no problem at all. They were all for it. And most people, like I say, even though they don't understand it, they're happy that we're having the health results that we have.
Yeah, and you mentioned your son was handicapped. I can't remember if you said what was affecting him. But has the diet helped him in any way?
Yeah, he's mentally handicapped. Yes, it's cleared up like his rosacea. He seems like he's, because he is on depression and anxiety meds. He had a mental breakdown about 15 years ago and had to be put on medication. And I don't know if he would ever be able to I would be too scared to try to wean him off medications because he's self-sufficient as far as eating and bathing, and he goes to neighborhood and rides his bike, but mentally he's probably only very young. He can't read, write, do math. There's no, like we would say, common sense. Like if you say jump off the roof, he'd probably do it because he could not process that would be dangerous. Mm-hmm. So for him, we've seen, and he had a lot of, I don't know if it was IBS or what with foods. And by removing most of the vegetables, especially because before we started this, we had a salad every night, and we had a lot of gut issues with him. That has stopped, and that has been a major blessing for me. Now, when we go away, we have a caregiver that will take care of him, and of course, he sneaks and he'll buy snacks at the local store and all when he has money. So it's hard for me to keep him really strict. But when he's not with us and gets eating things like processed food, just things he's not normally having, we go right back to these stomach issues with him. But as long as I keep eating the way we're eating, we have absolutely no issues at all with that.
You know, that's
so it has really improved all of our lives greatly.
Yeah, it's good to hear. As far as like for your, how much do you eat multiple times a day, 2 meals a day, 1 meal a day? How much do you typically eat?
I eat 2 meals a day. Mm-hmm. And I find now that I've been on it this long, I don't want to eat as much as I did in the beginning. And I know a lot of it with age, you're active because I'm not as active as I used to be. So I know my appetite's not there, but all 3 of us, we eat 2 meals a day.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because you said you really never really ate a bunch of processed food, even before it was even before it was meat and a lot of vegetables. But you did. How often were you making these baked goods, these sweets? Was that an everyday thing, or was that just something occasionally?
Probably not every day, but we would have. I'd always have cookies, or we had usually ice cream, or
Mm-hmm.
Every day we would have probably something sweet, even if I didn't make it.
Yeah.
Not a lot. More my husband and son, they're more like, I was a little more picky with the sweet stuff and what I liked, but they would just, whatever was there, they would eat it.
Mm-hmm. And, some people would say that, if you just cut the sweets out, you'd have the same result. Do you feel that it was necessary to remove the vegetation and the vegetables to get the results you got?
Oh, I think so. I think it's all a part, because I know when we first began, of course, we lived on the scales, not real, we hadn't learned enough to, it was all the learning process. And if I did, like we'd go out to eat, or I would have part of a dessert or something. Even now, if I do, like I can tell in my body that's, even if it's a vegetable, I can tell in my stomach, the way my stomach feels, everything when I eat a vegetable or anything with sugar in it.